I just want to talk, build on the back of what Bridget and Matt have talked about. The department conducts a lot of prescribed burning as part of its mitigation activity for bushfires. This happens in nearly all the states. No, it does happen in all states and territories in Australia. Over the last 40 odd years, each state has developed its own suite of tools, its own set of rules, its own ways of doing things. The fundamentals of fire don't change. The fundamentals of the community actually don't change, as Matt highlighted. But because of federation, that's the way we've worked. In the last decade, because of the bigger fires that are happening, the bigger programs that are happening in terms of mitigation, we're starting to say, well, actually, we need to pull this together. We can't afford, as individual states, to fund research, to fund other activities that work through these processes. So 5 years ago, the fire and land management agencies across Australia got together and applied for some funding from the federal government and we called it the National Burning Project at the time, to build some best practice tools so that we can all start to work towards best practice in prescribed burning. It's not a black and white issue in the sense of fires are a process. It's good and it's bad. It has good and bad outcomes depending on what you're trying to do. So it's another tool, and we need to treat it that way to get best outcomes for the community and for the environments we manage. Whoops, what have I done with the bottom one? No? Ah, there it is, thank you. So yeah, in a summary, states and territories have got together to build collaborative best practice. A lot of that is done through people. So we got experts, people who were seen as the expert practitioners from a range of states and looked at a whole range of issues from planning, environment, smoke and carbon, risk management. And so in June last year, most of those projects finished and the actual National Burning Project finished. And so there's now a large consolidated piece of work around, no, so I can do it again. Am I standing in the wrong spot?
Button.
Yep.
Oh.
That'll work. I'll use that. So now there's national guidelines and a range of other documents to try and start to work towards national best practice. It's not something that the same recipe will apply everywhere, and that's one of the reasons why we have state differences. You know, the Northern Territory is vastly different from Tasmania, and we need to account for that. But some best practice principles and the ability to look at what other people do and grab good ideas and implement them is part of what we're trying to build on. So there's a whole range of documentation that's now available. Best practice guidelines, risk frameworks, some documents around measuring performance, some logic processes, a national position, as well as some review documents. There's two that are still in train, but should be finished in the next couple of months. And we've also used some of that information that's been generated into the training packages that agencies deliver, so that the training that we give to people who are conducting prescribed burning incorporates the new best practices, new science where it's applicable. Because the burning project was a time-limited funded process, we wanted a vehicle to take this forward. We don't want this to be a one-off. Prescribed burning, whether it be for fuel management outcomes or for ecological outcomes, will be occurring in the landscape for quite some time to come. So the same agencies got together, and under the auspices of AFAC, which is the peak body for fire management agencies, and the Australian Institute for Disaster Resilience, which is the Commonwealth's vehicle for doing things in this space, we've created the Centre of Excellence for Prescribed Burning. So it's a new entity. It started in July last year. It's still only got its legs, but essentially the products will be delivered through that centre. So this sense, it's a bit of a plug for that. But the centre is aimed at engaging with the community, training and education, and capturing the experience from practitioners so that we can improve capability through sharing evidence and knowledge. The things that are happening at the moment is there is a series of webinars that are happening, so we can actually share new science best practice between practitioners, but anybody as well. They're public, so anyone can look at those, and they're all recorded, so they'll be on the web. There's currently a study tour happening where emerging practitioners can actually go to another jurisdiction and look at how things are done somewhere else. They can talk about it and they can bring back lessons to their particular agencies. And there's a knowledge hub on the ADA website which has all the documents that have been produced and will contain other documents as they're produced. So that's the contacts for the centre. Deb, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, that's her business card, so if you want to contact her you can do that. But essentially what we're saying is this is a perpetual learning space, continuous improvement space, and we see the Centre of Excellence as a vehicle for trying to share information between practitioners, to help practitioners who are perhaps outside of agencies to gain knowledge and skills. So we see this as a really positive initiative in terms of trying to take prescribed burning as a tool back to land managers in particular and other practitioners who may want to use it or plan to use it. So that's all I had to say.